There have always been tear-jerking scenes, unexpected sportsmanship, and wholesome moments in F1. But they're nowhere near to what I'm about to share with you. The first on my mind is undoubtedly one of the biggest acts of selflessness we've seen in the history of F1. It goes back to Ayrton Senna's incredible act of brotherhood towards Eric Kamars during one of the 1992 Belgian GP free practice sessions. After a heavy crash at over 300 km per hour, Kamars remained unconscious in the middle of the track, but his foot was still firmly on the throttle, risking a major explosion. While other drivers passed by Kamars, leaving it up to the marshals, Senna realized what was happening and the immense risk Kamars was facing. Therefore, he did not hesitate to risk his own life and ran towards Kamars to turn off his engine and hold his head before help arrived. Kamars, who after watching footage of Senna's heroic actions stated that this showed Senna was not just a champion, he was a hero. And let's just admit it, he was. If you wonder if that kind of sportsmanship still exists within F1, I'll have to take you to a similar scene that unfolded between Lando Norris and Sebastian Vettel, once again at Spa-Francorchamps. Yeah, Spa is a beautiful track, but it doesn't always treat the drivers right. In 2021, the McLaren driver had a moment of oversteer on the completely soaked tarmac and lost control of his McLaren after tackling Eau Rouge.
I see it just started to wander into an oversteer and they had to correct it.
It sparked a jaw-dropping accident that had everyone on edge.
Did I say red flag? Yeah. It's unnecessary. Is he okay?
As nobody confirmed to Vettel that Lando was okay, he didn't hesitate to check on Norris, pulling up beside him to ensure he was before carrying on. However, underneath Vettel's calm exterior brewed a simmering frustration at the decision not to call off the session sooner, and who can blame him given the dangerous conditions? They really should listen to the people driving the track.
He's okay, he's okay.
Copy that, carry on.
And you know who really dodged a bullet thanks to those who rushed to help? Niki Lauda's crash at the 1976 German Grand Prix was a nightmare come to life. His car was consumed by flames, and as if things couldn't get worse, he was struck by two more cars. It seemed like the end for the Austrian driver, but in those heart-pounding moments, fellow drivers Mazzario, Edwards, Lunga and Ert didn't hesitate. They leaped out of their own cars and raced towards the inferno, risking it all to save their fellow driver. And so, thanks to their fearless actions, Lauda was pulled from the burning wreckage, dodging what looked like a certain life-ending nightmare. And even the greatest season rivals can show some great sportsmanship, no matter how much the biased media tries to hide those moments. Everybody knows the end of 2021, but Lewis Hamilton was one of the first to congratulate Max Verstappen in Abu Dhabi, before his radio silence, that is. Here's how the Brit congratulated him.
Is down in Parc Ferme as Lewis Hamilton comes to embrace Max Verstappen and say well done.
And then in another wholesome moment, there's Lando Norris, a great driver, but we all know he's had a hard time shedding his second place curse, which made the entire grid congratulate him after finally getting his first win at the 2024 Miami Grand Prix. The Brit's hands down one of the most loved drivers around. And let's not forget, he went from doomed to second place to dominating a major part of this season and being a contender for the title. How do you become a rock star in your team? We'll have to look at Gilles Bianchi, who rocked the 2014 Monaco Grand Prix. The French driver snagged 9th place with his modest Marussia, scoring not just his first point in F1, but also the team's in the category. We'll let his reaction do the talking here.
This is John. Mighty job, mate. Absolute mighty.
So, which place we finished with the penalty?
I think we're P9. I think we are P9. Very good race, Jules.
Finally, we have a point. I'm so happy.
Makes me smile every time. Not every moment is between drivers. They might even be extra special when they're not. Spanish Grand Prix 2017, there's a kid in the audience who is a massive Kimi Räikkönen fan. This was his time to witness him in action, but he had his heart shattered before the race even begun when the Finn had to retire at the start. When Ferrari caught wind of it, they felt like we're all feeling when we think about the kid, and therefore hooked him up. They brought him to meet Räikkönen himself. The Iceman chilled with him, tossed him his cap, and then he watched the podium together with his family. It truly was a day to remember for this little star. We all know how much Italy loves to watch Ferrari take the top step on Sundays, but we also know that going 8 years without a win in Monza is heartbreaking for every Italian, and so I can still see the tears of happiness the entire nation cried when Charles Leclerc took his epic win at the 2019 Italian Grand Prix. After the race, the track turned red as all the tifosi celebrated Leclerc's second F1 win and Ferrari's first at Monza since 2010. Now, we've seen some hard-fought battles in F1, and we know that drivers all give that little bit of extra when it's their home race. But when Ayrton Senna started having gearbox issues with just 10 laps to go, the crowd had a hard time believing that their hero could still take the win. The rain was pouring down, and everyone was at the edge of their seat. He knew he had to do this for his home crowd, and therefore gave it more than he had. But with his lead disappearing, he had to stop looking at the signs and just accelerated. He finished the race in 6th gear, being so exhausted that he wasn't able to step out of his car. After receiving help to get to the top step, he said, "If this is the price I had to pay to win in Brazil, it was cheap. Thank you." I love watching those videos. As Senna just showed, you do a lot for your home crowd. Just ask Fernando Alonso when he pulled off that jaw-dropping comeback at the Valencia Street Circuit in 2012. The Spaniard went from 11th place to take first, sending the whole crowd into a frenzy. They were all bowing down to their local hero. Here's how Alonso summed up that epic win.
In this race is probably the best victory I ever felt, or in terms of emotions, nothing maybe compared to this one.
Now here's an emotional moment I have to include. Everyone rallied around the local hero at the 2016 Brazilian Grand Prix. Felipe Massa, who had announced his retirement from F1, crashed 20 laps from the end.
He's run wide.
In what would be his last race at home. But check this out. Massa didn't waste a second before grabbing a Brazilian flag, soaking up the crowd's roar. Back in the paddock, he got a thunderous applause from the team mechanics, his wife, his son, and his old man. The twist? Massa ended up sticking around for another year in Formula 1, but man, did he leave behind some emotional memories. And just like Felipe Massa, Sergio Perez pulled off a gesture to remember at his home race after finishing the 2022 Mexican Grand Prix when he told his fans not to boo Lewis Hamilton during his interview. Now, wouldn't you say that's some class outside the track? That same year, George Russell also proved he's got class, pulling off a heroic move at the British Grand Prix after he was caught up in this spectacular crash at the start with Zhou Guanyu. After seeing everything unfold from his own car, Russell, even though his car was banged up but still drivable, decided to throw his own race when he made the call to jump out and run over to make sure Zhou was alright. Zhou's car was totaled under the barrier. Amazingly, the Chinese driver walked away without a scratch. Russell really earned some respect there, and I started looking at him differently. Now, if you give someone a favor, you never know when or if you get it back. In 2011 at the German Grand Prix, Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso shared a wholesome moment when Alonso's Ferrari ran out of gas during the warm-down lap. Webber didn't think twice about giving him a lift to the podium. Fast forward to 2013 at the Singapore Grand Prix, they pull off the same stunt. This time, it was Alonso returning the favor, giving Webber a ride after his Red Bull gave up on him. And that wasn't the first time a driver played taxi for another. The 1995 Canadian Grand Prix had a surprise winner, Jean Alesi, who scored his first and only F1 victory on his birthday. But while the crowd went wild for Alesi, a fan favorite, his Ferrari ran out of gas on the cool-down lap. That's when we see Michael Schumacher stepping up without a second thought, giving him a lift in his car while Alesi celebrated his win, creating this iconic moment. Now that's a taxi ride I'd like to have. But while I'm already with Schumacher, he himself had another really special win at the 2000 Italian Grand Prix. By doing that, he matched his idol Ayrton Senna's 41 victories, and while we hardly saw any emotions from Schumacher, he couldn't hold back tears during the post-race conference.
Those records mean a lot to you?
Yes, it does mean a lot to me. Sorry.
Showing us a different side to one of the all-time greats. Mika Häkkinen and his brother Rolf, who were on the podium with him, quickly comforted him. And staying at Ayrton Senna's legacy, the GOAT continues to shake up a lot of feelings. Lewis Hamilton snagged his 65th pole position at the 2017 Canadian Grand Prix, matching the Brazilian legend. As a tribute, he got an original Senna helmet, and he couldn't hide his excitement. And talking about helmets, have you ever heard about the Schumacher and David Coulthard story from the 1996 Monaco Grand Prix? Fans were scratching their heads as they were expecting to see Schumacher in a Ferrari. When did he move to McLaren? Well, here's the scoop. Coulthard had visibility issues with his helmet in the rain, but Schumacher was kind enough to lend him his lid to race with. Therefore, both drivers rocked the same design. How come? Both Ferrari and McLaren were sponsored by Marlboro, so they were cool with it, making this quirky story possible. Sebastian Vettel also had a sportsmanship moment with a rival after a free practice session at the 2019 Chinese Grand Prix. The German driver saw smoke coming from Albon's Toro Rosso brakes and didn't hesitate to give this order to his mechanics. But it's not just about sportsmanship between rivals. Of course, it happens between teammates too, like when Lewis Hamilton showed with Valtteri Bottas at the 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix. In the middle of the battle with Sebastian Vettel for the championship, Hamilton, sitting fourth with Bottas in third, asked Mercedes to swap positions when he felt he had more speed.
Let me use it. If I can't catch them and get past them, I have to let them back past.
Hoping to challenge the Ferraris. But it didn't quite work out, so he handed back third place to Bottas, showing the mutual respect between them.
To take his place on the podium.
And just like Bottas and Hamilton, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello had another heartwarming moment between teammates at the 2002 United States Grand Prix. Schumacher, who had been leading the race, let Barrichello pass him on the finish line, creating this iconic scene. It was Schumacher's way of giving back to Barrichello for letting him take the win in Austria earlier that season. And another heartwarming win was Nigel Mansell's victory at home in the 1986 British Grand Prix. But it's not just because he did it in his teammate Nelson Piquet's backup car, since his own car broke down before the race, it's also because he did it with Frank Williams watching from the sidelines, making his first appearance since his serious accident months earlier. Seeing the boss there gave the whole team a massive boost, and the whole team celebrated together in this special win. But here's a real tearjerker. This blind fan got the surprise of his life when he had the chance to live out one of his dreams, hopping into a Formula One car. Sharaf Edin's story is simply amazing. Despite losing his sight at 20, he never stopped loving F1. As he tells it, all thanks to Liberty Media, he got to jump into a two-seater Formula One car in Barcelona, an experience he'll cherish forever. Just check out his reaction.
You enjoyed it? Yeah? Oh, mate.
And here's another feel-good story from a young fan that's just too good to miss. The Alfa Romeo team got this letter signed by Goto along with a €19 donation in 2019. So the team decided to launch an online hunt to track him down. And guess what? They found him and invited him to the 2022 Japanese Grand Prix. There he got the VIP treatment, meeting the team up close and even getting to sit in the car. They even slapped a sticker on it in his honor. And if I take you with me on a trip down memory lane, there were some real feel-good moments during the early days of Formula One, like at the 1958 Portuguese Grand Prix, where Sterling Moss and Mike Hawthorne starred in one of the classiest moments of all time. With just a couple of races left, these two were battling it out for the championship. Moss took the win in that race, with Hawthorne finishing second. Hawthorne initially got disqualified for pushing his car in reverse to start it after a spin, which was considered risky. But Moss, in an absolute demonstration of sportsmanship and being the stand-up guy he was, saw it all and, knowing it wasn't a risky move, therefore convinced the officials to give Hawthorne back his second place. He thought it was only fair, even though it meant Moss lost the title. I'm not sure who would still do that today, as drivers seem to be the first on the radio rather quickly nowadays. But let's not forget one of the most heartwarming moments in Formula One history. After crashing on the first lap of the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, Romain Grosjean slammed into the barriers, splitting his car in two and engulfing himself in a fireball. The marshals and medical car crew quickly rushed out to put out the fire and get the French driver out. When it seemed all hope was lost, after 30 seconds, Grosjean miraculously emerged from the fireball on his own 2 feet and was taken to the hospital with burns to his hands and feet. After leaving the hospital, he went to thank those who came to his rescue, creating a truly emotional moment after their heroic act. Now, when rookies take it up against legends, the outcome isn't always what you think it will be, and that's why I created this video. Let's see what the rookies can do. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.